91 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Time running out. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
It's a win for the American people.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says the clock ticks on a deadline to avoid a partial government shutdown. Jeffries is urging lawmakers to pass the measure, but Texas Republican Chip Roy says he'll vote no.
Nothing is going to stop the flow of the border in this bill, so we're funding open borders. We're funding the mass releases of people in violation of the law, using parole, the same laws that were violated to release the individual who came in and killed Laken Riley. I can't do that.
Laken Riley is the Georgia nursing student who authorities say was killed by a Venezuelan migrant. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez says he will not run for re-election as a Democrat, but hopes to be exonerated on charges of bribery and corruption and pursue his candidacy as an independent. His trial is set to begin in early May. An escaped Idaho inmate and an accomplice captured after what officials call a brazen ambush at a hospital.
Boise police say inmate Skylar Mead and shooting suspect Nicholas Umfenhauer were located in the Twin Falls area and taken into custody. Lieutenant Colonel Sheldon Kelly of the Idaho State Police revealing 2 homicides involving adult males in 2 separate counties may be connected.
No further information on the homicides is available at this time, and the county coroner will provide identity as well as the official cause of death.
Officials say Umfenhauer is an associate of Mead's and that the 2 planned an ambush at a hospital where Mead was being treated, with Umfenhauer attacking and firing at Idaho Department of Correction officers. 1 officer released from the hospital, 2 remain in stable condition.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. A federal appeals court has ordered Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's case to be returned to a lower court to look at claims of juror bias and determine whether his death sentence should stand. The district attorney in Tulsa County, Oklahoma, says no charges will be filed in a fight involving a non-binary teen who died by suicide the next day. America is listening to Fox News.
I have
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
He has been convicted. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. It took more than 3 years, but an Indianapolis man is finally heading to prison for murder. Donnie Burgess reports.
Daniel Baxter had just pulled up to a stoplight on East 30th and North Keystone Avenue in Indianapolis in October of 2020. That's when security footage captured Keith Cole getting out of his car, shooting Baxter 5 times, and then driving off. Baxter's car rolled forward and crashed, later spotted by an Indy Metro police officer. Witnesses had the descriptions, and the gun was later found at Cole's house. He's been convicted of murder and will be sentenced April 11th. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
And police are investigating after one man was shot and killed in the parking lot of a Fort Wayne Walmart store Thursday. At this time, officers believe a suspect got out of a car in the lot at the Southtown Crossing Boulevard store, got into the victim's car, shot the victim, then left the scene. The injured man was taken to the hospital, but he did not survive. It is not yet clear what led to the shooting. But the Mega Millions jackpot is $977 million with the next drawing Friday night. This woman is playing the Mega Millions game, and she explains why she feels lucky.
But I have 2 millionaire winners in my family, so you always figure maybe it'll hit 3 times.
The Powerball jackpot has increased to $750 million so far. The drawing for that is Saturday. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
Expect a partly cloudy night with lows in the low to mid-30s. Then for Friday, we'll warm back up into the mid-60s with a mix of sun and clouds with rain chances in the afternoon and nighttime hours with wind staying on the lighter side. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Stephen Deanna for 93 WIBC.
What people suffering from nasal breathing, snoring, and sleep apnea problems want is for their issues to be fixed. And at Advent, that is precisely what we do. Here, there are no Band-Aids, but there is a thorough approach to get to the root of your problem. And in tens of thousands of cases, finding simple solutions, which are undeniably effective, have made remarkably positive impacts on people's lives. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. For years, patients have been traveling literally from around the world to come to us to find what no one else has been able to give them. And that's why now we've come closer to you.
If your quality of life has been diminished because of nasal breathing, snoring, or sleep apnea problems, and you don't know who to turn to, go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Breathe well with simple solutions. Breathe well with simple solutions. Advent knows.
Results may vary.
Hey, this is Spencer Thompson at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. If you missed the biggest outdoor furniture sale of the season at Thompson Furniture, then you're in luck. We've extended the sale now through April Fool's Day. No joke, the best outdoor furniture by Berlin Gardens in Pollywood is on sale. Little to no maintenance, lasts for decades, leave it outside all year long. Sale ends April Fool's Day only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
Did you know if you have water, storm, or fire damage, the first step is on you? Yikes. It's your responsibility to mitigate damages. Mitigate? Yeah, that's a fancy word for call Michaelis. They'll take it from there, from boarding up, cleaning up, and fixing up, to getting you squared up with your insurance company, which is a whole other mess you can avoid. Make it Michaelis. Call 844-FIX-INDY.
Tony Katz.
It's Kendall and Casey. The Amber and Nigel show.
All right, when does your show start? Do we know? I feel like I've been promoting this for 9 years now.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93.1 FM out of Indianapolis, the live streams on YouTube and Twitter, the podcasts everywhere else. It's been an especially insane day down at the border at what has to be one of the largest scandals for the Biden administration yet. And in honor of the Biden administration, I'm wearing a tan blazer. Because when President Obama was caught with his administration smuggling firearms, American-made firearms, down to Mexican drug cartels in Fast and Furious, a couple days later, when everyone thought that this might be the scandal to bring down the Obama administration, President Obama made the unfortunate mistake, I guess as the story goes, of wearing a tan blazer. And as a result, a Fox News commentator mentioned the tan blazer, and then the left, instead of talking about the major scandal down at the U.S. southern border, I know, Obama, Biden, and border problems, who'd have guessed? The entire media focused on the scandal of the tan blazer for the next several weeks. To this day, there are those who believe the entire Obama administration scandal filing cabinet boils down to the tan blazer. So before we get to a tan blazer moment for the Biden administration, let's talk about the most insane moment at the southern border in decades. And that would be that today at El Paso, a gap in the border was in border fencing was created, and a storm of migrant young men, not pregnant women, not old men, stormed through the border and overwhelmed the Texas National Guard. For those that are watching the live stream, here's what that looked like. They're pushing through. Soldiers are trying to hold them back. The migrants are screaming racial slurs at the guardsmen. And now they are trampling the guardsmen, and they are running up to secondary fencing. And that was an absolute mess in the worst of situations. You ended up getting a huge mess in which migrants were banging on secondary fencing. Again, the guardsmen ended up being okay. You know what could have stopped those migrants, perhaps? You know what might actually have slowed down the onslaught of what is genuinely a violent invasion into the United States? Some razor wire. You know, not just strung up on some secondary fencing, but across the ground in big loop-de-loops that would make it hard to run through. And this is an even cooler idea. You can include some of those loop-de-loops of razor wire on the American side of the border. Now you may say, well, that's really terrible. How is anyone supposed to get through the border legally? Well, unbeknownst to Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who has told congressional hearings repeatedly that he very much desires to leave the border open because we have a labor shortage in this country, his words, not mine. You can get into the United States legally through these things called ports of entry. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the show, because right now, the hot button topic that just got discussed before this invasion at El Paso today was the Supreme Court of the United States, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and Texas Senate Bill 4. So as a reminder, Texas Senate Bill 4 was a piece of legislation that Governor Abbott signed into law, which allows Texas to arrest, detain, and deport illegal immigrants in the borders of the state of Texas. So this allows county officials, state officials, semi-federal authorities like certain rangers and marshal authorities, as well as, of course, federal authorities under state law to arrest illegal immigrants and deport them, because Texas is overrun. As much as Chicago and New York and Martha's Vineyard have whined over the last couple of months that, oh, the migrants are too much, Texas has been sweltering under the weight of illegal immigrants for the better part of 15 years as far as carrying capacity goes. Or at least that's what people from Texas consistently report at home and abroad. So the Supreme Court ruled that the Fifth Circuit Court, which is processing the Biden administration's lawsuit against the state of Texas, so that Texas was not able to protect its borders at all. The Supreme Court ruled that this Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals was not allowed to simply suspend the hearing indefinitely and not give Texas the authority to uphold state law just because there's a lawsuit. Think of it this way. You have a meeting with your boss, and your boss says, well, until we meet, I don't want you coming into the office. And then your boss just postpones the meeting indefinitely, and you're never actually getting into the office. And this is, by the way, considered an intimidation tactic in a lot of American employment law. But as far as the Supreme Court ruling goes, they said, well, Texas, you're not allowed to do this. And hours after the Supreme Court ruled that the Fifth Circuit Court was not allowed to hold Texas over indefinitely, the Fifth Circuit Court introduced a new stay on Texas. And the next day, there was an invasion down at El Paso. And this is going to be a very, very serious problem for Biden and the Democrats, regardless of when it finally gets back to the Supreme Court, because that's where it's heading next. Here is the serious issue. According to several CNN polls, immigration now tops voter concerns. And the Biden administration, who's put all of their big cash chips in on abortion issues, abortion isn't even on the list for Americans' biggest concerns right now. Across all parties, all demographics. And speaking of demographics, a new CNN poll, a separate poll, found that Hispanics trust Trump to secure the border far more than they trust Biden. Gee, who has been telling you guys for months that Hispanic voters in the United States don't trust the Democrats when it comes to immigration issues? Oh, yeah, that's right here, the Tony Kinnacast. Now, reminder, guys, Biden can deploy troops to the border right now. He can shut the border right now, but he won't because, again, up through 2023, the Biden administration was doing victory laps about how open the border was. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre in August of 23.
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
So the Biden administration doing more, meaning revoking every single executive order and regulation they could from the Trump administration on the border. This is entirely their fault. And the bid, the gamble, let's say, to make this Republicans' fault, it ain't working. Republicans do not control both the House and the Senate, and they especially don't control the presidency. Now, Biden claims he needs more money and more Border Patrol staff. This is what he said at the State of the Union address. This is what he's been lecturing everyone about. Well, lecturing may not be the right word. What he's been mumbling and yelling about like an old codger from Weekend at Bernie's. What does he actually need the money and the staff to do? So tomorrow, we give Biden all of the money that he wants for the border in the way that he wants to run it, along with the Ukraine spending. How does Biden spend that border money? Well, he uses it to hire more Border Patrol staff to secure the border? No. He uses it to staff more Border Patrol agents in the realm of processing more illegal immigrants for catch and release court dates. By the way, the majority of illegal immigrants never show up for their court date, so it does nothing. And he also wants additional staff, as he stated, and as Alejandro Mayorkas has stated, basically to be bus drivers. So instead of actually hiring Border Patrol agents to secure the border, Biden is your local school district who has a bus driver shortage. And they're very, very open about that. You can't run a country that way. You can't. There is no feasible way that you can run a nation with completely open borders. Everywhere else on earth understands this, except for the American and really the Western progressive left as a whole. They don't understand illegal immigration. Now, they're not housing the illegal immigrants. They're not bringing them into their homes. No, they're calling the National Guard when they show up in Martha's Vineyard. But they want you to. They want the southern border states to carry the burden, not New York and Chicago. They do not understand history, the history of immigration, and this is a huge issue. But worse than that, they don't understand the law. And when you don't understand history and you don't understand the law, you're not really going to be effective at governing a country. We're going to be talking about that up next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
I also did say that men are not women and women are not men, and men do not breastfeed and never will, because those are facts. And anybody who says otherwise, that person shouldn't be allowed to practice medicine. They're crazy. I will have that debate with anyone at any med school anywhere. Let's start setting a standard that we focus on medicine and not insanity.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Back in my day, we would camp in the backyard and tell scary stories. Except we weren't the greatest storytellers.
Zero tension building.
But with the Xfinity 10G network, we'll get insanely fast internet in the house and outside. So we can stream scary stories all the way out here.
Ooh, this one's called The Wedding Nightmare.
Fire it up.
It was then that Jessica realized the airline had lost her gown.
The next generation Xfinity 10G network. The future starts now. Save more this season when you get Xfinity Internet and Mobile. Or, now through March 21st, get 150 megabit internet for just $20 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless bill and auto-pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
When do you plan to file for Social Security? Be careful here because you could set off a chain reaction of events with your taxes, IRA and 401k withdrawals, spousal benefits, and even your Medicare premiums. And this could needlessly cost you a small fortune. Hey, it's Hammer and Nigel. Learn how you could avoid this with a free customized Social Security analysis from Bill Demery, your retirement guy, right here in Indy.
So if you've saved more than $200,000 for retirement and have not yet filed for Social Security, you've got to call Bill Demery right now. He'll give you a free analysis. Free, but you got to call 317-648-5120. 317-648-5120. Social Security, it's complicated, but Bill Demery will make it make sense for you. I've met with Bill. He's the best. 317-648-5120. Bill Demery, your retirement guy.
Let Bill Estes put you behind the wheel of the powerhouse brands that define American toughness. Ford, Chevy, Ram, and GMC.
Get 1.9% APR on 2024 GMC Sierra 1500s plus $3,250 purchase allowance and no payment for 90 days when you trade in an eligible vehicle.
Unleash the power of the road with Bill Estes Trucks. Find the location near you and see their inventory at BillEstesTrucks.com.
Trade allowance only on 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 V8 engine. Financing for well-qualified buyers through GM Financial. Length of contract limited. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 4/1/24. See dealer for details.
Did you know one of the best investments you can make? It's in yourself. At My Computer Career, in just a few months, you could start your new career in the high-demand, recession-resistant field of information technology. Isn't it time you invest in you and start a career in networking, cybersecurity, AI, or upskill to boost your current IT career? So, get the ROI you deserve at My Computer Career. No experience necessary. Start now at mycomputercareer.edu.
Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Expand your backyard living space with an Indy decorative concrete patio. Did you know that on average, our patios are less expensive than a wood deck? With a longer life, less maintenance, more color options, and more texture and pattern selections. We can even stamp your patio to look like wood. You can get a much larger and longer-lasting entertainment space for your investment. Indy Decorative Concrete, the patio experts, changing the way Indy thinks about concrete.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Just a curbside prophet with my
Hey, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC. When it comes to understanding the immigration problem and why the left genuinely has no idea how to fix it at all, and when you ask them how to fix it, like something short circuits, and they're like, fix the border. Like, why is there even a border in the first place? It comes from the classic misconception of history. So I've been asked this on social media by individuals on the left who follow me still. I've been asked this in person by friends of mine who are on the left, and they say, well, why was it so easy back in the day for our ancestors to get off the boat at Ellis Island and they just waltzed into the country? And that's the term they always use. It was so easy. You just showed up to the United States and they stamped TONY to New York on your head, and then boom, you were in the country, Tony. That's how easy it was. Well, no, that's not actually how history worked at all. See, Ellis Island was a port of entry. The left always likes to talk about the Statue of Liberty, bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Beautiful poetry. And it is beautiful poetry. Yearning to breathe free, yearning to assimilate into American society. And you did that, if you were taking a look at the Statue of Liberty, at Ellis Island, the official port of entry to the state of New York and the major port of entry to the United States. And you would get off of the boat and you didn't just waltz right through and get your license and just scoot right on through to the States. No. You had to stand in line for a considerably long time. Sometimes that line could stretch up to days because individuals that wanted entrance to the United States, they were asked lots of questions and they were checked for diseases. And they were checked based on the primitive communications that we had at the time for known criminals of their country of origin. And then if they passed all of those things, and they swore and they promised to obey the laws of the United States and to assimilate into American culture and society, then they were let in. That's called a port of entry. That's how legal immigration works. And by the way, this is one of the reasons that Hispanic Americans who are citizens, who immigrated legally, are so against illegal immigration, because it's not cultural. It has nothing to do, it's not cultural in the way that it's not based on the color of an individual's skin. That there's like this pocket of Americans who secretly going, oh yeah, it's the insert South American or Central American group here. That's the problem. No, it's not. It's, do you want to assimilate into the culture of the United States and make this country better by following its laws and contributing something to society? The left does not understand the history of immigration. They also don't understand the law. And it isn't just in immigration. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who you could have guessed, if I said don't understand the law, I mean, her name pops right up. Representative from New York. She was screaming this week on Capitol Hill at Tony Bobulinski because there is a serious investigation underway into President Biden and weird business connections to his crack-addicted son. And, well, here, you can see for yourself. Things get just a little bit out of hand.
Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business deal.
Did you witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime Have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is the crime, sir?
You
specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption statutes.
Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime.
And she goes on like that. RICO is not like a crime. Like, oh my goodness, that's not even a crime, guys. That's not, my Uncle Rico it's not even a criminal at all. The pain, it puts me through physical pain to hear her speak. So first of all, U.S. Code 18, subsection 1961 through 68, the Federal Racketeering Act, yeah, that's a crime. It's actually a cool list of crimes. And what he is saying very openly, he said several corruption statutes. Guess what? Yeah, those are laws to be violated. And then saying that he violated RICO, meaning he violated a series of laws in a way that suggests large mob scale corruption. And by the way, I will point this out because it's kind of fun. If AOC is suggesting that RICO is not a crime, congrats to President Trump for completely getting off on all charges in Georgia. Because Donald Trump is being brought up on charges in Fulton County, Georgia, on RICO. So, basic law, very, very basic law. Progressives do not understand it. What they think is Biden is innocent because he's a Democrat. Trump is guilty because he's a Republican. The law doesn't matter. The individual crimes don't matter. This is why you see the New York Attorney General going after every cent, regardless of the fact that it clearly violates the 8th Amendment. And a host of other very weird situations regarding Fulton County in Georgia. They don't care about the law. They just know you're guilty and you're bad because you disagree with me on a philosophical level. And here's the proof, by the way. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, you remember Ketanji Brown Jackson, the goober who got up in front of the Senate and said she could not define what a woman was because she said she was, quote, not a biologist, end quote. Because apparently you need science degrees to tell you what a woman is. By the way, I have science degrees, and guess what? You don't need them to say what a woman is. But she decided to say something very, very concerning in a legal case the other day. Here's what that sounded like.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods.
So if you didn't catch that, she said, my concern is that the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, is hamstringing the federal government. Guys, the Constitution is built to hamstring the government. Very basic history, very basic law. And do you know where you can go and read this and see this? Again, this is the cool thing about being a Supreme Court justice. You're expected to read the decisions and the opinions of prior Supreme Court justices. John Jay wrote so much about limiting the federal government with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, his hand practically fell off. He's literally one of the first documented cases in this country of carpal tunnel. That's how much John Jay wrote about the Supreme Court and the Bill of Rights limiting federal government overreach. But it's not enough to limit on philosophical distances because this is where it gets really, really silly. Because the left is always moving to the next big thing, the next big wild, nonsensical, super far to the left thing they're going to introduce and they're going to pretend is normal. Now it's squatters' rights. So if you haven't heard, squatters' rights are the idea that an individual can move into a house they do not own, they have not paid for, and they're not even renting. And that because they are there, the owner cannot come back and kick them out. Now, some states have squatter rights, which is wild. You can have a right to someone else's property you didn't pay for, that kick in after a certain number of years. But it is getting extremely serious because there are several states here in the country in which there are not prolonged wait times. You can just waltz into somebody's vacant house and there you go, you're living there and you can't be kicked out. And if you complain about it to the police, as we saw in recent videos, the police will come and arrest you for complaining about it. Now, there is a migrant on TikTok, an illegal immigrant, of course, who is gone viral for telling illegal immigrants how to use squatters' rights to steal American homes. And he went on bragging about how his friend had already stolen several American homes this way. And again, that's the left. They don't believe in property rights. They don't believe that you should own anything at all. Everything is owned by the state. And the fact that you own property, that you own things, makes you evil. Because if you own something that someone else does not own, therefore they are oppressed at your hand of oppression. That is the very root core of diversity, equity, inclusion. I will point out, by the way, that in Florida, lawmakers have passed a bill today that completely ends squatters' rights of any kind. And of course, Governor DeSantis is going to sign it. Again, best state in the union for a reason. And it's important because in New York today, 2 squatters are being sought after because they murdered a woman who went to check on her house that was owned by her dead mother. And 2 people were inside and they killed her and they stuffed her into a duffel bag to rot. And now the cops are looking for the squatters. Absolutely bonkers. Good luck running with this in the 2024 election, left. Just absolutely at a loss for words. Up next, we're going to be talking to Jerry Lopez. It's time for some awful tweets. Don't go anywhere. This is the Tony Kinnacast here on 93 WIBC.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Absolute Comfort. Chris Wedekin is the owner, and he says working for a glass house builder has made them experts at heating and cooling.
When the sun comes up on one side and sets on the other, the demand is much larger on one side at one part of the day and much larger on the other side at one part of the day. So with zoning, we can solve your issues.
Make your home absolutely comfortable by going to AbsoluteComfort.org. Absolute Comfort is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
I'm a grandson, a son, I'm an employee and a mentor. I'm a father to 2 beautiful kids and a husband to an amazing wife. And I have a substance use disorder. In other words, I'm living in recovery with an addiction. And now that you know, will you let it change how you see me? It's okay to see my addiction, but I want you to know it's people choosing to see me as a person that changed my life.
See the person, not just their disease. Learn more at cbeyondtheaddiction.org.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I'm about to tell you a secret that'll make the insurance companies madder than a wet hen. Major insurance companies use a software called Colossus to tell them what the firm you hire is likely to settle your case for. Google it yourself. They know which law firms can lowball and take the last best offer, not us. Google our firm and see billions recovered from those very same insurance companies. They know who we are, and now you know it too. Morgan & Morgan.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Cancer's worst gets our best. Franciscan Health is a national leader in treating colorectal cancer, achieving the highest standards in cancer care. With accredited programs, board-certified oncologists, and fellowship-trained colorectal surgeons, Franciscan Health is focused on your future, offering the most advanced treatments and latest clinical trials that are no match for colorectal cancer. Meet colorectal cancer's toughest opponent at franciscanhealth.org/colon-cancer-care. That's franciscanhealth.org/colon-cancer-care.
Want to find out what real retirement planning is all about? Tune in to Expedition Retirement with Greg Ayler, Sunday mornings at 7 on WIBC.
Smokey the Bear. Then you know why Smokey tells you when he sees you passing through. Remember, please be careful, it's the least that you can do. What you desire, don't play with matches, don't play with fire.
After 80 years of learning his wildfire prevention tips, Smokey Bear lives within us all. Learn more at smokeybear.com. And remember,
only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
There are 48 million unpaid family caregivers in the United States. Visit aarp.org/caregiving to access a free guide to help navigate your caregiving journey.
Awful tweets, the ones that no one ever deletes. Awful tweets on the Tony Kinnett Show.
On 93 WIPC.
Welcome to Awful Tweets. You've heard the jingle. It's time to go over the worst the internet has to offer. And, today that's quite a bit. Jerry, how is it going?
Doing great. Doing great. How are you doing today, Tony?
I mean, particularly fantastic. Sometimes the internet serves up just a platter of pure filth. And today, it's especially stinky. It's going to take like 2 whole cans of like Axe body spray to even begin to put a dent in that mess. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And you know what? Kudos to your listeners for the tweets that they send in. They sent us some really good ones this week. So ready to get started.
That's right. The first one here is from a guy named Mike Singleton. He's a former senior executive at NBC Universal. And this tweet was so bad that it was sent in to me, it was sent in to you, and then you and I ended up sending these to each other. This is what he tweeted out. He said, Barron Trump, that would be Trump's one of Trump's sons, turns 18 today. He's fair game now, said Mike Singleton. And Jerry, why don't you tell us why this is an awful tweet?
So a couple of reasons. One, I mean, I look at it from a different perspective. We kind of collabed on it when we sent it to each other. It's I looked at it as, kids are kind of off limits, and I looked at it from almost the least of the ways you could look at it. You looked at it by looking at his previous tweets that maybe he's interested in Barron.
So this dude is, first of all, a monumental creep, and I'm going to go as far to very clearly state on air that this is an individual who displayed predator activities and intent, and here's why. He has spent the last 5 years tweeting pictures of Barron and going on about how he really, really, really hopes that Barron turns out to be gay. Oh, that would just be so great if he turned out to be gay like me. Wouldn't it just be so wonderful? And now he's 18 and he's like, he's finally legal. And then it's like Mr. Burns. He's like, excellent. Ew.
So he's a creep waiting for the kid to turn 18.
This reminds me of that one show. Like, why don't you sit down? Like, why don't you take a seat? Ugh. All right, here's the next one. This is from Joe Scarborough from NBC, which off to a good start. And he shared a video of January 6th, and he said, "This is Donald Trump's America, and he is proud of it. Promised another bloodbath if he loses again." Now, this is a double-decker of really awful tweets, Jerry. Why don't you break it down?
So he put that out, and the hero we never deserved, Elon, responds. It says, January 6th was not a bloodbath by any definition, and Trump was referring to job losses in the auto industry when he used that word. Your post is extremely misleading. And then Joe deleted the tweet.
Well, he had to, because Trump immediately responded with for a different situation, though, but with a lawsuit against NBC, which, again, is just patently fantastic. You cannot just go out and lie just because it's a public figure. Like, you can't just go out and throw up very easily disproven lies. Not a thing that anyone can do. That's defamation and libel. Here is another one that's particularly interesting. This is from the New York City mayor's office. They're saying crime is down in New York City in 2024. But New York's finest aren't resting on their laurels. You may see top NYPD leaders out on the subway today as a part of Chiefs on the Train, which, by the way, is a federally registered member of the Cherokee tribe. I was assured we weren't allowed to say Chiefs anymore, but anywho. Then they say, let's all do our part to make the safest big city in America even safer. All right, go.
You know why it's safer, Tony? It's safer because the governor deployed the National Guard to the subway. So how can crime be down and you have to have the National Guard patrol your subway?
Imagine having a city that is so violent that your homeless people are attacking people all day and all night on the subway. You have to deploy the guard to do regular police work. Maybe you should lock up your criminals instead of letting them out with $0 in bail. This one is from a lady named Miriam Barghouti, and she tweeted on the 20th, yesterday, that Israeli forces just killed 3 Palestinian resistance fighters by bombing the car they were in, extrajudicially assassinating them because they couldn't take them in actual combat. Israel's army is neither morally acceptable nor is it capable. They just have big bombs. Jerry, look, you and I have experience with how the military actually engages in like its doctrine of combat. So let me ask you here. When you were in basic, were you ever told that when you were in an engagement that what you really needed to do was stop and give them a judicial hearing before you took action?
No. That's not even part of any SOP at all. And dropping bombs on people, terrorists, let's not call them resistance fighters, on terrorists.
Yeah, that's true.
That's combat.
I was going to say, if you're in a war, aren't bombs kind of part of the deal? Like grenades have been around for like a long time. In the words of Outkast, bombs over Baghdad, right? Like that's the way it works. Well, speaking of the way it works, the Associated Press, this is kind of a doubleheader here for you at the end. They say that the Don't Say Gay law would be expanded to all public school grades in Alabama under a new proposal. And they have a ACLU poster that say trans people belong in Alabama. I love this one because I read the bill. I know this is a crazy idea. I read the bill. And Jerry, can you guess what words I didn't find in this bill at all?
Well, I know you're smart, and I'm sure your listeners are smart too, but nowhere does it say you can't say gay. Like, that's not even part of the law at all.
That's true, but a guy named Ron Stouffer underneath says, my mother-in-law's name is gay. Nobody's gonna ban me calling her by her real name. Good thing I don't live in Alabama. And he's serious. These people vote.
I thought that was a troll.
Oh, the stress.
It's sad. And this is the problem when people don't do their own research, right? They just go off media headlines. Don't say gay. It's like, that's not even what it said.
It's truly the best. All right. I'm going to end on a good note here. This is from a Canadian paper called The Globe and Mail. And they say, excessive free speech is a breeding ground for more Trumps. What do you think of that one?
So I have a question for you on this one. As being the educator, is there such a thing as excessive free speech, or is there just free speech?
Well, see, officer, those hot dogs weren't free; they were excessively free. Isn't free just like it's free? I mean, it either is or it isn't.
Or it's not. Yeah, it either is or it isn't.
It's a breeding ground for more Trumps. I don't know what you're trying to say. Like, normal people will suddenly morph into, I'm turning into Donald Trump. It's huge. I love my First Amendment rights. They're great. I love it so much. Canada's a mess.
Canada has no right to do anything, right? After they shut down the truckers and shut down people's bank account, like, just stay up north.
Jerry, thanks for joining us for another week of awful tweets, man. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Yep. Have a great rest of your show.
Stay tuned. We are going to be right back in a second. This is the Tony Kinnacast here on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Biden constantly lies.
He was doing a victory lap on prices. He said costs were down. Just because it's not at the record level that you were responsible for previously, you don't get to do a victory lap. It's still substantially higher than when your predecessor was in office.
Yeah, and they're not coming back down.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
With the weather changing, March is a critical time to check your home's windows. If yours are cracked or leaking and won't open or stay open, then it's time to call the pros at Window Nation. Right now, for every 2 windows you buy, you'll get 2 windows free. There's no limit to how much you could save. Plus, you could save even more with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 24 months. Window Nation's windows come with a lifetime warranty and can be installed in 1 day or less.
With proven proven quality service. It's no wonder thousands of homeowners have trusted Window Nation for their homes, and you can too. If your old windows and high energy costs from this past winter are cutting deep into your finances, don't miss out. With this unlimited deal, buy two, get two free, plus zero down, zero interest, and no payments for 24 months. You can't afford to wait. 866-90-NATION or go to windownation.com. Schedule your free in-home estimate.
Your nose is for breathing. Your mouth is for eating. And if you're breathing through your mouth, it's not because your body wants to. It's because it has to, because your nose isn't working properly. And although you've lived like this, it's no way to live, and it's having a significant impact on your life. I know you know this, and I know that taking action isn't always convenient. But at Advent, we've done all we can to make changing your life for the better as easy as possible. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. With tens of thousands of our patients, a thorough breathing triangle evaluation, along with a simple 20-minute in-office procedure called balloon sinuplasty, has opened their nasal passages, allowing them to breathe freely through their nose for good. And there's a good chance this procedure can do the same for you. We'll help you breathe through your nose again, and it will change your life.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better. Results may vary.
Hey, this is Spencer Thompson at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Stretch your tax dollars during our Buy More, Save More sale. The more you buy, the bigger the discounts, and it's all delivered for free within 75 miles of Columbus. Everything from Lazy Boy, Smith Brothers, Bassett, Sealy mattresses, every lift chair, it's all included with the lowest price guaranteed. Sale ends Monday only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. Cancer screening tests can help keep the person you love around longer by detecting changes before cancer develops, or catch it early when it may be easier to treat. And many tests are available for free or are covered by insurance. It's time to sound like a broken record. Tell all your friends and family, I love you. Get screened. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
The Phone Ready quiz from the American Academy of Pediatrics will help you decide if you and your child are ready for their first phone. Go to healthychildren.org/phone ready quiz.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Hey, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC. It has been an interesting week, and it's certainly going to get probably a bit weirder than before it gets better. Because of the question that I received in the mailbag, we're going to do mail time a little bit early. We're going to do it a day early this week. Now, to participate in mail time, what you have to do is you got to go over to tonykinnett.com/contact. And right there is a fancy, beautiful form. And that way you can send the message over. Lou, the producer, gets it. He sends that over to me, and we take the ones that are especially great and especially terrible, and we serve it up for mail time. Mail time. Mail time. Now, speaking of that great barbershop theme from Blue's Clues, the question that I've devoted this Thursday segment to is from a guy named Steve. And he asks me, and this is how he phrased it. He said, why are people cheering for the bench picks? I was instantly confused. I had no idea what he was talking about. Cheering for the bench picks. What do you mean? And he went on, I said, why do people care so much about vice presidents in this election? And he sent me two links. He sent me a link in which CNN was losing their mind about Aaron Rodgers, and again, former quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Probably didn't need me to tell you that. At least I hope not. And then a lot of comments about Trump's VP. Why all of the hubbub, even about Kamala Harris with Biden? Why all the hubbub about the vice presidents? Why is everyone obsessed with, as Steve puts it, the bench picks? Here's why. And I think this is important enough to discuss because here in a couple of days, we're actually probably going to start getting some picks. And before all of the analyzations from all of the super duper professionals come out, to my common Hoosier friends and audience out there, this is the reason that everyone cares. Number one, because this is the last unknown thing in this entire election. This is the only thing that could possibly sway voters at this point. Seriously, like, this is the very last unknown thing in this election. Let me explain. Normally in a presidential election, you have scandals that have never been known about that candidate that develop over the election season. All right. This is why people used to, kind of mourn the start of election season before 2016. You would get into that right before the election year where primary season came out and people would sort of pay attention to it. And then the primary candidates would be chosen and they would square off and you would find out things about how they talked to their staff and an affair they had with their second cousin Gilbertina and like all this other weird stuff. So that you'd have the scandals and then you'd have new policies that they would suggest and world events that they would react to. No one had ever seen how this presidential candidate would react and it would be incredible, and people would change their mind over the course of the voting season. Everyone already knows absolutely everything about Joseph R. Biden, who has been in the Senate from time immemorial. When Noah got off of the ark, he waved to Joe Biden on his way to the U.S. Capitol. And then you have Donald Trump, who's been on TV for time immemorial and has also been a very prominent entertainer and the subject of 2016 to 2020. Everyone knows everything about him. There's nothing else new. That's why when Trump gets out and says something and the media is like, whoa, isn't this wild? The voters are like, yeah, what, you haven't seen Trump before? Like, you guys have talked about only him for ages. This, more so than any election in U.S. history since 1892, which is the last time that we had an incumbent facing an incumbent. This election here in 2024, everyone already knows everything there is to know about the candidates. So the last thing there is the vice presidential pick. Who they pick kind of makes a difference here, whether it's Trump, RFK Jr., or Biden. And this is the other reason, because the chances genuinely are not zero that Biden or Trump or RFK Jr. are going to make it through their second term in office. Biden genuinely could have died 5 minutes ago. I don't say that like as a joke or that it's funny. It's a terrible, horrible thing. But it is an honest to God possibility. And Donald Trump's not super duper excellent, amazing in his health either. I mean, he's leagues better in mental health than Biden, but physically, he's not like super duper alley-ooper. And neither is RFK Jr. Not like the Kennedys have anything to talk about when it comes to staying alive in office. Sorry, too soon. The reality is the vice president might actually have to step up and lead the country. And you can actually see on camera, by the way, anytime that Kamala Harris comes to terms with this, because her eyes widen like a deer in headlights, because Kamala Harris can't even spell the word president, much less govern a country. I genuinely think that she doesn't know what she's doing in that office, which is why she laughs all the time, because it's so awkward. It's like stage fright. So that brings us to the vice presidential picks themselves. So first of all, let's get this out of the way. Biden is stuck with Harris. Everyone out there, I know the Washington Post wants Harris to step aside. The New York Times want Biden to step aside. They're stuck with it. When the Democrats made their entire thing that Kamala Harris was super duper historic because she's a woman of color and she's amazing. It's great. They're stuck with her. Because if you don't keep her on the ballot, then you're the exact kind of bigot that you told everyone the Republicans were. So you're stuck with her. Sorry. And that's one of the reasons why Biden is being propped up alive and not allowed to resign, which he's going to be on the ballot for that reason alone, because Kamala Harris is worse, but they're stuck with her. Here are Trump's picks. Marco Rubio maybe would be a very good choice for him. He kind of needs somebody from Florida that isn't DeSantis. Rubio, a senator who's more moderate evangelical, would be a good pick. I don't think he's going to pick Rubio, but that's an interesting rumor that's been going around. It's most likely going to be one of these three. It's either going to be Tim Scott from South Carolina, it's going to be Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, or it's going to be Ben Carson, the former secretary of the not Secretary of the Interior, but it's going to be one of those three individuals. And it really, really gets interesting when you boil down what Trump needs to do with the VP, which is moderate. I don't necessarily think that Trump is going to pick someone like Haley-esque. Ben Carson is very, very close to a Mike Pence kind of pick. I personally think Ben Carson would be an excellent pick. He's a very well-spoken vice president. He would wipe the floor with Kamala Harris. Kristi Noem is kind of a squishy governor who kind of sucks. Marco Rubio would be interesting. It is not going to be Vivek Ramaswamy. So that has been made official. Trump may consider him for some kind of a cabinet position. And I was told for time immemorial during this entire ordeal that it was going to be Vivek. Oh, Vivek's so great. Vivek is not going to be the next leader of the country because the only person who can be Donald Trump is Donald Trump. I hate to break it to you, but Trump, being the really funny entertainer, can pull off being wild and crazy while still being the brash populist that he is. No one else can be Trump. This is why Carrie Lake sucks out of Arizona. Why she keeps getting her butt beat with like a fraternity bat is because she tries to be Trump, but it just comes off as really cringy and awkward, and no one's impressed by it. When Trump does it, it's kind of cute and funny. When anyone else does it, it's really weird. Vivek's the same guy. And you don't need more Trump to win the election. Like, going all in on populism lost the 2022 elections. So it needs to be a moderate. This brings us down to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which, believe it or not, I think that his picks are really hilarious. He's going with, very likely at this point, either Aaron Rodgers, Mike Rowe, or Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Tulsi Gabbard has been brought up as a possible pick for Trump because she's like a Democrat that like breaks away from the Democrats, man. Whoa. And the same with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm sorry, it's not going to be the case. Neither Trump nor RFK Jr. needs the Democrat on the ticket. That's like elementary level political thinking. It ain't happening. She also has no original ideas at all. She's like the less worse version of Kamala Harris. It's going to either be Aaron Rodgers or Mike Rowe, which is a brilliant pick because they have the celebrity kind of status that Trump does, while likely being kind of the average working man's Republican, which is a really interesting idea. It's not going to be enough to pull votes from Trump, which is what RFK Jr. is probably hoping for. What the Democrats have to fear, though, is that a lot of Democrats like the idea of a Mike Rowe or an Aaron Rodgers, like a normal person, at least as far as celebrities are concerned. And so when you look at this election, what RFK Jr. is trying to do is just get enough votes to make it. And in reality, what you're probably going to be stuck with is a weird kind of lackluster performance that ends up pulling away. Thanks for tuning into the Tony Kinnacast this evening. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to 93 WIBC.
Here's another remarkable success story from QC Kinetics. This one from Chad, who hurt his knee at the gym one day, and it just kept on hurting for months.
From my high school football and wrestling days, I already had a little bit of damage in there, but this just sent it over the edge.
Chad tried traditional treatments with no improvement when he turned to the non-surgical regenerative treatments at QC Kinetics.
It was really fascinating how they did their work, and the science behind it was very intriguing, and it works. Extracting the cure out of my own body blew my mind. It's like I'm brand new again. It was fantastic.
That's because the QC Kinetics